Hi, this is Kent with PolyglotKent.com. I want to talk today about learning Lao tones. I've learned a few languages. Lao has definitely been the hardest language I've ever tried to learn, and I wouldn't say I've learned it yet. I'm still learning it. And the hardest part for me has been learning tones. Lao is a tonal language, and tones are really important when you're learning Lao. Here's an example why. They've got two words here. They're very similar in how they're written and how they're pronounced, but this one here is cow, and this one here is cow. So if you listen to the difference, this is a rising tone, cow, and this is a low falling tone, cow. And so different words, if you pronounce them with the wrong tone, people aren't going to understand you, so you need to learn the tone rules. This has been the hardest part for learning Lao for me. I've been trying to learn Lao tone rules for a couple months, and it just wasn't sinking in until finally this week. I've tried a couple of different things, and finally I feel like I've done it right. A few months ago I found a video on YouTube that explained the tone rules, and you'd have to know which consonant sound you had and what kind of vowels tone you had, and that would help you know which tone to use. And I understood the concepts, but I just was not remembering the rules, and it was really frustrating. I did find a whole bunch of tone charts on the internet, about 6 or 7, and that was another frustration for me, is because a lot of people don't agree with what tones you use in what situation. So I found about 6 or 7 tone charts. Each one was slightly different. And so I picked one that I thought was probably the most reliable, and so I made my own version of it here that I use, and I wrote some words on there that I looked up. Here's how a tone chart works. You got 3 different kinds of consonants. You have high consonants, mid consonants, low consonants, and then depending on the ending sound or the vowel length or tone marker of the word, that's how you know which kind of tone you use. And so at first what I was doing, I had my Lao flashcard deck on my phone, and I would look at a word, and then I would go to my tone chart, and I would try to figure out where it fit on the tone chart, and I tried to remember the tone. I would learn the tone for a day, but then I'd come back to the same word the next day, and I would forget it again. So I wasn't remembering the tones for the words, and I still wasn't learning the tone rules. I was relying on the chart. I did this also with Forvo.com. Forvo.com is a great website. Forvo.com has lots of foreign words in different languages spoken by native speakers. For the Lao section, there's about 136 words, and you could go and you could look at a word. I would look at the word, I would find it on my where it fit on my tone chart. I would try to pronounce it, and then I would listen to it on Forvo.com to see if I got it right. This was good because I could hear the difference between the different tones, but just like using my flashcard deck, I wasn't really learning the rules, and I was getting really frustrated. One frustration for me in the Lao language, trying to learn it, is there's not really a lot of great Lao learning websites. There are a handful of them. A lot of them had the tone rules, or they had tone charts, but they didn't have great suggestions on how to learn them. Fortunately, there are a lot of good Thai websites. My favorite is womenlearnthai.com. Even though Thai is a different language than Lao, they're very similar. Both of them have similar tone rules. And so I searched on the website for tone rules, and I read different experiences that different people had learning the Thai rules and what worked for them. Some of the suggestions I like, some of I didn't. One that I thought was unique, and I tried to use a little bit. One writer suggested that you hum a word when you learn it. So you're not just learning the pronunciation and the meaning of a word, but you're humming the tone. And I thought it was a great suggestion, but it still didn't teach me the tone rules. Just learning the tones of specific words, and if I came across a new word, I still had to go to the tone chart. So I figured, what I needed to do was to finally memorize the tone chart. And so First, I memorized the column, the rows, what the different rows meant. You know, the high consonant, mid consonants, and low consonants. And then I memorized which column, you know, what those meant. And so that took me a day or two to memorize those. To know which consonants to use, I had to become a little more solid in my consonants. So I had the flashcards that I've made, you know, a couple months ago, and it took me about half an hour to review those and to get solid on what consonants were high consonants, which consonants were mid consonants, and which consonants were low consonants. So I got that, and then I needed to learn, you know, the grids, what were the actual tones. So how I did that is I got one of my business cards from work. I wrote my own little abbreviation of what the different tones were. So, you know, first column, rising, rising, high, 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 mid. And then when I took a break at work, you know, I usually walk around the parking lot, do laps around the parking lot, and I would kind of, as I'm walking around, I'm chanting these different tones. I go rising, rising, high, 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 mid, low falling, high falling. And I probably look pretty stupid doing it, but, you know, it didn't take too long to memorize these. And then I changed it up a little bit. I started humming them, kind of like the suggestion on womenlearnthigh.com. So instead of saying rising, rising, high, I'd go So I would learn the tones that way. And then I would, you know, I finally, this is what helped. So then when I went back to my flashcard deck and I would see a word, and instead of going to my chart, I could finally figure, okay, I remember which row it's in, which column it's in, and then I could remember where it would be on the chart, and I could finally pick a tone for that word. Now, to be clear, I'm still very slow at this, but it feels good that I don't have to keep going back to my chart and looking up every single word. That I can look at a word, I can read Lao, even though I'm reading it very slowly, I can finally read it with the correct tones. You know, I do want to talk about a little bit about the benefit of working hard. You know, I was about to give up on Lao. It became very frustrating. I think in every language you hit these brick walls. Usually when I've learned a language, the brick walls come later, you know, and then for me in Lao, it came very early in learning Lao, because tones are one of the important integral parts of the language. And you can give up when you hit these brick walls. You can become frustrated, or you can work a little harder, like I did. And I'm really glad I worked a little harder and I pushed through it. I had to try different methods, and part of working hard was just trying to figure out how to work hard and figure out what was going to work for me. So my suggestion to you is if you come across a brick wall in your language learning, to work harder at it. Try different things. If you're trying one thing and it doesn't work, find a different way to do it. Ask suggestions from other people who have learned that language or a similar language, and work hard enough, you're gonna learn it and you're gonna figure it out. So good luck, and thanks for watching.